And if winning means you have to compromise on quality and have $10.5 billion of hacks a year and not care about people and surrender to centralization or reset the network anytime it breaks manually, I don't want to win. I'd much rather lose with some integrity. And frankly, I think it's neither. I think we're going to win with integrity because that's ultimately what crypto is all about. That's the point of crypto. Well, let's look at what we accomplished. We went from a static and federated system that didn't have smart contracts, that had a very small community, that had a very little liquidity, to an ecosystem in the top 10 with over 100 exchanges, 2 million people, 130 dApps being built, 2 million assets issued on it. We've gone from the Byron era to the Shelley era to the Goguen era successfully. We've never had a major downtime in the network history. Hundreds of billions of dollars of value have been moved in the year 2021. And we also have written 130 academic papers. We defined the entire science of proof of stake. And we learned an enormous amount along the way about new development models, like, for example, extended UTXO, which is the only way, in my view, to bring smart contracts to Bitcoin. And it enables things like Mithril and Hydra in short order. So I think a lot's been accomplished. And when people look back at all of that, they'd say, okay, if somebody told you we'd achieve all of that in a 4-year period, would you take that deal? They say, of course. And they'd say, you're crazy to see that kind of growth and that kind of systematic effort and so forth. But what they do is they get so caught on the narrow and say, well, smart contracts were supposed to be here, or decentralization is supposed to be here. We had to rewrite the software 3 times. There were major changes in architecture and vendors. There were approaches that were taken that didn't work out. There were, of course, delays. Well, Vitalik said that in 2015, he said Ethereum 2 was going to come out in 2018. Worst case scenario, and, it's 2022. He's saying maybe 2025. So does that mean everything Ethereum's ever done and achieved is bad? No, it's just the nature of the game, and there's things you learn along the way. In some cases, you're overly optimistic. There were product and project management methodologies we were following that we thought would properly estimate things. Turned out they were wrong. People behind that aren't here anymore. We have completely different ways of running product and project management. We're far more accurate. When we have delays, they're usually in the months or weeks, not in the years in these types of things, which means we're converging. Now, what's nice, though, is one thing that's never been wavering has been the product market fit, and we've made enormous progress there. I'll get into that in a second, but then also the clarity that the science has brought us. We don't sit around wondering, gosh, how do we scale? Gosh, how do we make this secure? Gosh, how do we know this is going to work? No, we already know. We have enormous advantages in our network stack design, enormous advantages in our consensus protocol design. We know the limitations of the system and the robustness of it. So it's not a matter of if, but simply how long will it take to roll out. So when we look at things like pipelining, import endorsers, you have all these people running around, DAG this, DAG that, DAG this, third generation this, super high TPS. Well, import endorsers effectively does that for you. And that was something we came up with in 2016. And we had a follow-up paper in 2018, Parallel Chains. Both went through peer review. So we know the science is settled. We have a really good understanding of it. We know how to build it. And we know that we're now in a position where it can be built because the foundations are mature enough to be able to roll these types of things out. So there are very few projects in this space that have so much clarity about how to put all the pieces together, from how to get great user experience in light clients to how to do microtransactions to how to accelerate the base ledger. And a lot of people say, well, you're just taking Charles's word for it. It's like, well, no, we wrote 130 papers and there's an army of engineers and all these other things. We did all the work up front. And if we hadn't done that, then it would be just like Vitalik with his prognostications about, Ethereum 2 and Casper, where they keep doing it until they run into a roadblock. Then they have to throw it all away and keep doing it until they run into a roadblock and throw it all away. We don't quite run into that. So I think this year is going to be our most productive year. And, people on Twitter, they like putting up that quote where I made a prediction about the amount of dApps and assets. Well, I was wrong in both directions. I was under optimistic about assets. There's 2 million assets that have been issued on Cardano. I was overly optimistic on the amount of dApps, but to be fair, we have 130 under construction. And we're in the infancy of Plutus, and we haven't even turned on all the Ethereum interoperability.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
So if you look at that projection and you project it out the year, if that keeps going with Catalyst support, we're probably going to be right in that projection. All right, it was off by about a year. Does that materially change the protocol? Does that materially change the science? Does that materially change the use of utility? And then on to Africa. We did the Africa tour last year. We went South Africa and Burundi and Zanzibar and Ethiopia and Kenya and Egypt. And we put ourselves in a great position over the last 4 years to actually start realizing what I was talking about, the TED Talk in 2014. There has been an enduring consistency in our messaging, vision, and philosophy about this project. We've never wavered once. We said 3 billion people, let's go find them, let's get them in. And we have a beautiful approach to do that. We've brought millions on board with Prism, B2B2C acquisitions. We have great partners on the ground that we're actively working with in Africa, nation states we're working with. So there's an inevitability that we get a shot at the vision of changing the lives of billions of people as an ecosystem. And we know the technology is fit for purpose because we built it that way. Everything from the metadata standards to the Prism-based identity standards to how we approach scale, how we approach participation. The other thing is the people in the ecosystem care about the mission. You think about growth, you have to ask yourself, who are you inviting into your house? If you get people in, the only thing they care about is making money, speed, and cost. Then if you go to them and say, hey, let's hyper-centralize the system and give Amazon total control, and you'll save 25%, they'll be like, where do we sign up? We love money. So you have to be really careful with how you grow and how you indoctrinate the philosophy of the system, just like Bitcoin was. No one was money motivated in the early days of Bitcoin because there was no money to make. Bitcoin was worthless. There were StarCraft tournaments where your fifth prize, your consolation prize was 25 Bitcoin. Your first prize was $100. I mean, if you're, I got these worthless Bitcoin things. What the hell are those, right? But it grew into this Goliath because it was born of principles. And so when you look at your initial population, you have to say, where do they come from? What's your churn rate? What are your growth factors? And one of the things that people cannot deny is the strength of the Cardano community, the passion of that community, the philosophy, the philosophical purity of that community, and the fact that most people here just want to do the right thing and they want to change the world. And they're comfortable with the idea that they're not a passive, but rather an active participant there. We have this saying in Cardano, grab a shovel, get it done, go out there, plant some trees. And we see the stake pool operators doing clean water projects. We see people doing healthcare projects, charity projects. Some are faith-based, some are philosophy, some are setting up NGOs. There's a SPO down in South America that's feeding children in Argentina. Everybody is finding something to do, some way to help, and use this system to do so. And as the tooling and capability of the system grows, that's only going to increase, and people are participating in droves with Catalyst. We have the largest decentralized organization in the world running the distribution of funds for the treasury of Cardano. Every round, the participation metrics go up, the amount of funded ventures go up. We're over 300, and those will bear fruit in their own right and lay the lands for 1,000 flowers. So I feel very strong. I feel we're in a very strong position, and I think we've made enormous progress, especially when you zoom out a little bit and you look at where we were at and how weak we were to how strong we are now and how fast it's all coming together. And the fact that every aspect is covered by some paper or piece of technology that we know works. And it's just an inevitable matter of getting all those pieces together. And if winning means you have to compromise on quality and have $10.5 billion of hacks a year and not care about people and surrender to centralization or reset the network anytime it breaks manually, I don't want to win. I'd much rather lose with some integrity. And frankly, I think it's neither. I think we're going to win with integrity because that's ultimately what crypto is all about. That's the point of crypto, is the principles of it, or else you're just building another legacy system and trading, Goldman Sachs for Ethereum or Goldman Sachs for Newcoin or something like that. What the hell is the point? It makes no sense.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination. as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.